Question I hear all the time from viewers and from my actual medical patients: can you get this strain of coronavirus more than once? Short answer, we don't really know yet. Remember that the coronavirus family contains several strains of coronavirus that are responsible for 10 to 30% of common colds worldwide. So as most of us know, we've all probably had more than one cold in our lifetime. It is definitely possible that it could be different strains of coronavirus giving us those colds that we've had multiple times. What we know right now is that there's a wide variety of immune protection that we are starting to see in patients who have been naturally exposed or infected to SARS-CoV-2. There's a suggestion that people who have had no symptoms or milder symptoms mount less of an immune response than those who have had severe disease. We don't know how long possible immune protection will last. It's a basic premise of immunology and virology that when you're exposed to one strain of a virus, that it is not possible to be reinfected with that exact strain again in the future. However, we also know that viruses mutate for a living. You shouldn't be surprised at some points to hear that this novel coronavirus is mutating. The influenza virus does that. We know that there are over 100 strains of the human papillomavirus. So this should not be surprising or frightening to people when they hear this. If the virus mutates, it doesn't always make the strain worse or more dangerous. Sometimes it's a neutral change, and sometimes it makes it weaker. Basic premise of medicine is that when you are exposed to a pathogen, your body mounts an antibody response that offers some degree of protection for some period of time in the future. What that period of time is, or the durability of that protection, we don't know yet.
We did reach out to various medical professionals to ask about these sailors retesting positive, but most of them didn't want to comment, saying there are simply too many unknowns with this virus.
Like many tests, especially those looking for infectious diseases, there can be false positives and there can be false negatives. The false negative rate is a massive problem when you're talking about COVID-19, because obviously someone who tests positive will need to isolate for at least a period of 10 days from that test result, sometimes longer if they're having prolonged symptoms. And so the health of people around that positive person or case depends on a quick and accurate result. Remember that the way these tests work, these swabs, is that they look for fragments of viral RNA. If it's not processed in a timely manner, if there's not enough genetic material on that swab, you can easily get a false negative. So understand there's no such thing as a perfect test right now. There's a false negative rate that can be as high as 30% based on when it's done, how it's done, and the time of processing. And anyone with a high suspicion of actually being infected, certainly anyone with symptoms, a negative result should be repeated.
McKee tested positive for COVID-19 in February, diagnosed after feeling the telltale symptoms.
I had a dry cough like you would not believe. It would not stop.
She fought the virus from home and beat it. She never imagined 4 months later she'd test positive for COVID-19 again.
Becoming reinfected is, right now, the general consensus and the vigorous general consensus amongst infectious disease specialists is that that is a myth that has been propagated that needs to be stopped. Bottom line is, with the nasal swabs, is that they detect genetic material of this virus. What it is a term called viral debris. So as the virus is dying, its genetic material breaks apart, and that can show up on the test. So the good analogy here is, think of a glass bottle that's intact, that can hold water, and then think of a bottle that's been smashed. You're still looking at glass, but it can't do its job. And so in cases very much like the woman in Texas, we have now very good data that has shown that you can detect those fragments, those little pieces of glass, or the virus, but they can't do its job. They're not actively causing disease. When the lay public says, can you catch something twice, they mean the same basic category of a disease. In medicine, when we hear that, we're thinking of viral strains or actual types of pathogens. But the deep dive in terms of immunology, infectious diseases, virology, science, medicine, never before have we seen any person be reinfected with the exact same strain of a virus more than once.